Hi, I'm Tutta Vetter at my home in Baton Rouge. My family has been in the restaurant business in South Louisiana for 35 years, and we've put together some recipes that have been tried and proven favorites both at home and at the restaurant. As you follow this tape step by step, you will be able to create your own exciting Cajun Creole dinners. The first menu we're going to do is shrimp remoulade, seafood gumbo, rabbit or chicken sauce piquante, and caramel custard. And then we'll do menu 2, which is sensation salad, oysters bienville, shrimp or crawfish étouffée, and chocolate pecan pie. I've designed the menu so that it's enough for an 8-person dinner party. The portions are ample, but don't worry about leftovers. It'll only be better the next day. Actually, each recipe is enough for a complete dinner in itself. One of our favorite things to do is to have over family and friends and cook up a big pot of gumbo or étouffée, have a nice green salad, and plenty of hot French bread. So let's begin with menu 1. Today we're going to start with shrimp remoulade. Shrimp remoulade is a chilled shrimp salad served on shredded lettuce. It involves 2 steps, making the remoulade sauce and boiling the shrimp. My dad took a couple of months to really perfect this recipe, and we are proud of it. The base is a Creole mustard, which you can find in almost any grocery store. This is my friend Maude. She's been a professional cook since she's 16 years old and has been with my family for a long time. Maude, what's the first thing you're going to do for this shrimp remoulade?
Okay, to the first we'll use 1 celery heart and 2 green onions. And we'll chop that in small pieces, and then we'll put it in the food processor.
The reason why we're going to put it in the food processor is because we want it to be chopped very fine. The sauce should be as creamy as possible. How does that look, Maude?
That it should be a little bit finer.
A little bit more.
We'll use the spatula. Just a little bit more. That should be fine, too.
Okay, we're going to take this and put it in a large bowl. You know, the best thing about this sauce is that you can make it a couple of days in advance, and it only gets better. Now we're going to put a cup of Creole mustard, a cup of Wesson oil, a 1/4 of a cup of horseradish, 2 tablespoons of Lea and Perrins, and of course a dash of Tabasco, a teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, and a 1/4 of a cup of vinegar. We just use a plain white vinegar.
Yes.
And a 1/2 cup of ketchup. We can't forget the ketchup. And then we'll whisk all these things together. This should be a really nice red color. Some people like to take the shrimp after they've boiled them and marinate them in the remoulade sauce for a while. But I think it's best if you boil the shrimp and cover the shrimp with the remoulade sauce just before you're ready to serve them.
Okay, Ted, that should be it.
Let me taste this, see if we have it just right. That's good. It's great. It's already good, and it hasn't even been a couple of hours. We need to put this in an airtight container and put it in the refrigerator. We're ready to boil our shrimp now since we've had our remoulade sauce made. In this pot, we have about 8 cups of water, 4 tablespoons of salt, a tablespoon of white pepper, a half a teaspoon of cayenne, 1 onion quartered, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 bay leaves, 2 whole lemons halved, and a stalk of celery. That looks like it's just about ready. We're going to let these cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we're going to turn the fire off and let them steep another 5 minutes. And that's in order to let all of the spices that are in the water permeate the shells. Oh, Maude, these look like they're just about ready. What do you think?
They are, Tutta. They are just about ready.
Okay. What I like to do now is to take these and put them in a colander and run cold water over them to stop the cooking. Looks like we're going to have a really fine shrimp remoulade. For a shrimp remoulade, the most important thing is to have everything well chilled. So after boiling, peeling, and deveining the shrimp, we got them nice and cold, and they're ready to be served now on a bed of cold shredded lettuce. So I'm just going to take shrimp and put them on top of the lettuce, and you may want to put a little boiled egg or a piece of green onion. But really, you don't have to do anything else except put a piece of lemon. It's important to cover all the shrimp and all the lettuce with the sauce. That's looking real good. And that completes our shrimp remoulade. Now we're ready to go on to the gumbo. And now we're going to do my favorite kind of cooking. At my house, we call it big pot cooking, because after you make a roux and saute your vegetables, you put everything in a big pot and let it simmer for a couple of hours. A great example of big pot cooking is seafood gumbo. In this recipe, we use a half a cup of flour and a half a cup of oil. The first thing we want to do is let the oil get pretty hot. And this oil has been on for a while, so we're ready now to add our flour. It's important that you keep the flour moving all the time. Using a whisk really helps. It's a lot better than a spoon. And you want to make circular motions so that all of the flour stays in motion. It's already starting to turn a light brown. If you were making this in a regular pot, you would have a little problem in keeping it out of the curves of the pot. That's why we like to do it in a sauté skillet. Some people make a roux in cold oil, but that takes so long, and it really doesn't taste any better than if you do it this way. If you feel like it's getting away from you and the fire's getting a little too hot, just take it off. Take it off the heat for a few minutes and keep moving it around. Now I'm going to turn this fire down just a little bit. This is almost where we want it. For a gumbo, you really like to get the roux a little bit darker than you would for an étouffée. This is getting to be a really pretty deep golden brown. Maude, think it's time to do the vegetables now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm going to get a spoon. All right, Maudie. All right. And the best thing about this is that it smells so good. Okay, we have 2 cups of onions, a cup of chopped celery, a cup of bell pepper, and now Maud's going to add a tablespoon of grated lemon rind. And we use the pulp also. And we're going to let all of these vegetables cook for about 5 minutes. Sometimes a little longer, it depends on how hot your fire is, until they're real soft and caramelized. And the sugar starts coming out. I like to wait a little bit on the garlic because I think that's the flavor you lose first if you cook it for a long time. And you need to keep stirring this so it doesn't stick. And this is step 2 on your recipe card. There are all kinds of gumbos you can make. You can make chicken and andouille sausage, which is a regional spicy pork sausage. You can make duck gumbo. Maude makes the best duck gumbo I've ever eaten. But you always start off this way. Okay, Maude, let's put in that garlic. Now let that cook for a couple more minutes. You can see how all of this is really getting nice and soft. And there's one thing you never want to do, and that's rush a gumbo. Okay, let's add the okra. We have about 2 cups of okra. You don't have to be real precise in making a gumbo. You don't have to have exactly 2 cups. In fact, a lot of people can make a great gumbo out of what's ever left over in their kitchen. You don't have to be a wonderful cook either to be able to cook Cajun Creole. You just have to have a lot of patience, a lot of time, and love good food because it's delicious. It's worth the wait. And what we're going to do is just move this okra and vegetables around until the okra is no longer ropey. What you think, Maudie?
I think
it's ready?
Yeah, I think it's about ready.
Okay, now we're going to add 1.5 pounds of peeled shrimp. We're lucky in Louisiana to have such wonderful, fresh Gulf shrimp. And for a gumbo, you don't need a real large shrimp. A smaller shrimp works just fine. If you don't have fresh shrimp, you can use frozen. But of course, whenever you can get fresh, that's what you should use. And this is step 4 on your recipe card. And you continue doing this for about 10 minutes. Of course, it depends again on how hot of a fire you're cooking over. So use your judgment. but it should take 5 or 10 minutes. I think this is all ready now to put in a big pot. Maude's going to add about 5 cups of water, or just enough to make a soupy consistency. Okay, and now we're ready for step 6, and we're going to add the longtime, dash of longtime, and about a teaspoon of Tabasco. And then we have a half a teaspoon of thyme, a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of white pepper, a half a teaspoon of cayenne, 2 bay leaves. And after this comes to a boil, we're going to let it all cook for about 30 to 45 minutes. Gumbo filet is made from a sassafras leaf, and it's a thickening agent in gumbo. After cooking 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of filet powder to 1/4 cup of water. This is a little trick Ma taught me to prevent the filet from lumping. And this changes the color a little bit, makes it even a nicer, darker color. Then we're going to let this simmer for another 5 or 10 minutes, probably 10, before we add about a half a pint of oysters. If you're going to serve 8 people, probably at least 16 oysters, and then a half a pound of crab meat. Okay, Maude, let's put that in. And somewhere about this time, it would be a good time to adjust your seasoning. You may want to add just a dash of salt. So don't be afraid to taste it, and make sure everything's exactly how it's supposed to be. Look at that lump crab meat. About 5 minutes before you're ready to serve, add a little chopped green onion tops and some finely chopped parsley, and let that sit in the gumbo for about 5 minutes. And after all of that simmering, we're now ready to serve the gumbo. You just need a little rice in the bottom of your bowl, and then you spoon up all of that good crab meat, shrimp, oysters. Make sure everybody gets a lot of juice. If you were having this for a main course, you'd want a bigger bowl. But with this menu, this is enough. Everyone enjoy your gumbo. And now we're ready to begin with our rabbit sauce piquante. A sauce piquante is a unique Louisiana blend of a roux, tomato gravy, and plenty of fresh vegetables, simmered to a spicy perfection. All right, now let's start on our rabbit sauce piquante. The first thing we need to do is to have 2 rabbits, each weighing at least about 2 pounds, that has been cut into 8 pieces, so that when you're serving, everyone will have 2 pieces of rabbit. After the rabbit has been washed, dry it off well with a paper towel. That's so that all the spices will stick to it real well. And then mix all of your spices together in a bowl so that you can just pour them over the rabbit. We have in here a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of white pepper, a teaspoon of red pepper, preferably cayenne, a teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of thyme. Now I'm just going to toss all of this around to distribute all of these spices evenly. And make sure you get it off the bottom so that it's all on the rabbit and not on your colander. Now, we're going to let this sit and marinate while we make our roux. Now you remember from the gumbo that it's a good idea to let this oil get fairly hot. We're using 3/4 of a cup of oil and 3/4 of a cup of flour. Okay, Marty. Okay, we're going to whisk this all around. Get it off the sides. Keep working it because you want to get all the little lumps out. Kind of do your skillet back and forth because this kind of helps move the oil around. And if you keep stirring it, you won't have to worry about getting any little black specks in it, where some of the flour has cooked a little faster than the rest. If that should happen, though, you have to throw it away and start all over. I don't think you should have any trouble finding fresh rabbit because we've been able to get it in all the local supermarkets. If you're a hunter and you have some wild rabbit, you would probably need to marinate that for about 3 hours. Because wild rabbit does have sort of a gamey taste that domestic rabbit doesn't. It's beginning to turn a little bit now. And for the sauce piquante, we want a medium, a light to a medium golden brown. I think a medium would be best. It doesn't have to be quite as dark as the gumbo. And you see it's starting to smoke a little bit, so I'm just going to pick it up and let it cool off some. And keep stirring. And at this point, where it's getting close, it's a good idea to turn your fire down a little bit too. You can always stay on top of the roux. Don't be afraid to take it on and off the fire. You're going to let this get just a little bit darker. And then Maude is going to add 3 cups of chopped onion, 2 cups of celery, 2 cups of bell pepper, and 1 chopped up jalapeno pepper. That looks just about right. That's plenty of vegetables, but that's what makes it so good. If you're kind of shy about the jalapeno, you can wait and add that. Add half that amount and add the other half later. You'll stir this all around and get the roux on all and coat all the vegetables. And so far, this part of the procedure is similar to the gumbo, except that our roux was a little bigger and we have more vegetables. But once again, we want to let these vegetables saute until they're nice and soft. And this puts us at step 5 on our recipe cards. This has been cooking now for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, all of the vegetables are cooked down. The onions are transparent, and you can smell a wonderful sweet smell. So what we're going to do is transfer this to a large pot. Marty, I'll turn the pot and you... Okay. Now to this, we want to add a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce, our bay leaves, and the garlic, and water. And then we're going to put this on the back burner and let it simmer for about an hour. And the next step is to brown off the rabbit. I have about 1/3 cup of oil in the skillet, and I'm going to turn the fire down on the sauce piquante just so that it's at a slow simmer. And we don't want to cook the rabbit, we just want to brown it. And put about 4 pieces in the skillet at a time. And you may have wondered why I didn't put any seasoning in the sauce piquante. Because usually when you take the rabbit and put it in the sauce, all the seasoning on the rabbit spices up the sauce. So after you get the rabbit in and it cooks for 15 to 20 minutes, taste it. You may want to add a little salt, but that's probably all. Again, there's nothing hard about cooking this style. It just, everything takes a little time, that's all. You can't rush it. And now that we have all the rabbit browned off, we're ready to put it in a big pot. So we want to make sure that we get all the rabbit down in the sauce real good, and then let it simmer for at least an hour until the rabbit's tender. And just come back and check on it every now and then. At this time, too, you might want to adjust your salt seasoning. And then we don't want to forget to add some green onion tops and chopped parsley. And that completes our sauce piquante. This is a dish that probably my kids and I enjoy the best, rabbit sauce piquante. We're going to serve it over linguine, but you can also serve it over rice. Everyone should get 2 pieces. And at the table, you might want to have a little Parmesan cheese to pass around. And then you want to put a lot of this good gravy. It's been cooking all that time. And that does it. That's our rabbit sauce piquante. We're in for a special treat now. Maude's going to teach us how to do her world-famous caramel custard. Maude, what do you have going on in that pot?
I have 1 cup of sugar, 1/8 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and 1/4 cup of water.
And how long is it going to take to cook that?
About 15 minutes.
And do you have to stir it a lot?
You have to stir it when you first put it in the pot. After that, after it starts to get an amber color, you don't stir it anymore.
Well, it looks like it's just about the perfect color now. And what do you have over here?
4 cups of milk, 1 cup of heavy cream. And just let that scald. You don't let it boil.
Well, it looks like we're ready to put our custards together now.
Yeah, we are ready.
Oh, Maude, that is a beautiful color. You're going to take that and put it in the bottom of each custard cup?
Bottom of each custard cup.
And that just makes it taste delicious. And when you turn the custard cups upside down, it makes such a pretty presentation. And I noticed that you have the cups in a bath. Why do you do that?
That's so they won't cook too fast, too.
So remember to put a little water in the bottom of your pan.
They have to cook very slowly. And now we'll start with a tablespoon of bourbon.
But you could use rum or...
Even brandy.
Well, that sounds good. And then we're going to put all of this in the oven and bake it for an hour.
At 300?
At 300. You know, and this is another thing that is really better in a couple of days. If you're going to have it tonight, it might be a good idea to leave it in the cup, because sometimes it's hard to turn upside down right after you've baked it.
Now whisk it until it's a real lemony color.
So that's going to take a little time. While you're doing that, I think I'll put this cup of sugar into the scalded milk and a tablespoon of vanilla. Now stir this up. Are you ready for me to pour that into the eggs?
Yes, it's ready to.
Make sure I have all the sugar mixed up in here real good. Okay.
Okay. Then we'll fill each cup.
And this is a favorite of a lot of people that live in South Louisiana. It seems like we like a lot of desserts that are made with a custard base, because we make bread pudding and rice pudding. Okay, now we're all ready to put these in the oven and let them bake for about an hour. Some people would say that this is the best part of dinner. Maude's going to take caramel custard and flip it into the saucer. This should be easy to do because these have been refrigerated overnight. If you've made these the same day that you're going to serve them, I would advise you to leave it in the cup.
Okay, you take the knife and go right around the edges. Then you take the plate.
Gosh, that looks great. Everyone enjoy your caramel custard. And this is a beautiful finishing touch to menu 1. I know you're going to enjoy menu 2 as much as you enjoyed menu 1. We're going to do sensation salad, oysters bienville, shrimp étouffée, and Maude's great chocolate pecan pie. Maude, let's get started on the sensation salad.
Okay, Tutta, let's start right now.
She's going to take six ounces, that's 6 ounces of Romano cheese, and we're going to grate it up in the food processor. You tell me when. You need to get this real fine. Remember, you're putting it on top of lettuce.
That's good.
Okay, and now we're going to add 1/3 cup of blue cheese. And we just want to mix the blue cheese up real well with the Romano. So we're going to spin this around a couple of times. How does that look?
That's fine, Tutta.
Okay. I'll take this and put it in a bowl for you. Maude's going to take 3/4 cup of lemon juice, 1/2 cup of olive oil, 1½ cups of Wesson oil, 1/4 cup of white vinegar, 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt, teaspoon of garlic, she's going to whisk that around till it all blends together pretty good. We're really proud of Sensation Salad because this is my dad's recipe, and it's probably one of the most copied salads around. It certainly is in Baton Rouge and up and down the Gulf Coast. Let's taste that, make sure we have enough salt. Tastes great. Okay. Take the cheese. It's important that you do this in this order. Take the cheese, sprinkle it on top. If you like a little less cheese, don't feel compelled to use it all. Let's see how that looks. And any cheese or oil and vinegar that you have left over, just keep it in the fridge and have a nice green salad again tomorrow or the next day. Maude's going to toss her salad with her hands because that's the best way to do it.
And the reason for this, because you want to make sure all the dressing and cheese get on every piece of lettuce.
Yeah, that's important. I wish I had a nickel for every sensation salad Maude has tossed. You want a little more cheese, Maude, or you think that's enough?
I think we could stand a little more cheddar.
So we've used almost all the cheese that we grated up. And it's important when you make a salad that you chill your salad bowl and chill your salad plate. And there's another beautiful sensation salad. And I have to tell you, the best way to have it is with a piece of hot French bread or a hot cornbread muffin. You can't go wrong. This is really a special treat because we're getting ready to do oysters Bienville. Oysters Bienville are fresh-baked oysters on the half shell served in a rich roux-based cream sauce. And they're a lot less complicated to fix than you might think. One of the secrets to a really fine oysters Bienville is to have fresh ground shrimp in the sauce. Let's begin now with our sauce. I'm going to take 3 sticks of butter, and turn this fire down a little bit. And then put a 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, my pot had gotten a little hot, so I had to take it off the fire for a minute and stir this all around until it's nice and creamy. And we don't need to brown this roux, so I'm going to go ahead and put in 1/4 cup of green onions, one and 3/4 cup of chopped onions, and about 4 teaspoons of garlic. Now we're just going to have to let that soften up a little bit. In the back, in this back pot, I've scalded 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of half and half. I think we should let this get a little softer. Sometimes you just have to look at it and use your own judgment. Okay, now we can add the mushrooms. And I've put the mushrooms in the food processor so that they're really fine. You've got to get them nice and fine. That was 2 cups of mushrooms. And then I have 1.5 pounds of boiled shrimp. And I also put these in the food processor so they would be nice and fine. We stir that all around. Now it's time to add the seasoning. In the seasoning I have 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of seasoned oil, a teaspoon of white pepper, a half a teaspoon of red pepper, and that's it. Now we're going to add the 2 cups milk and the half and half. And you need to get all of this mixed together really well. And now we're ready to add 3 ounces of white wine and 1 ounce of absinthe. I'm using some Pernod. You can use Pernod or Herb Saint. And although you think that you may not like absinthe, don't leave this step out because it really finishes off the sauce. Now I'm going to take the oysters and put them in 1 cup of oyster water, a half a cup of white wine, a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of white pepper, and 1 bay leaf. And we're just going to let these cook until the edges of the oysters start to curl, because this dish will be baked before it's served. Let's see what we have here. That tastes real good. We have a good Bienville sauce. So I'm going to bring this over to Maude. And when I get back, the oyster should be almost ready. Let me go over here and get these oysters. All right. Now we're going to take an oyster, or 2 if they're small, and put 1 in each oyster shell. If the oyster shells aren't available to you, some other ideas are to use small individual casserole dishes, or you could put it in a big casserole and serve it that way. Some other things we've done with Bienville sauce is to thin it out a little bit more with some cream and use it either under or over a piece of broiled or baked fish. Also, we've used it as a dip. It makes a delicious dip. So just use your imagination, and there are a lot of great things you can do with this sauce. After you get the oysters in each shell, get a spoon and cover each oyster completely with the Bienville sauce. And this makes a lot, so you can be generous with your portions. And it's not hard, just like I promised you. Now, what do you have in this bowl, Maude?
That's a little Parmesan cheese, breadcrumbs, and paprika.
Okay, and now we're going to put a little of that on top of each oyster. And then you want to dribble a little butter on top. And you could do this ahead of time. You could do this even the day before, so the night of your party, all you had to do was just bring them to the oven. And we're going to put these in the oven at 350 degrees until they're hot and sizzling. Remember, everything's cooked, so you just need to get them hot again. Oysters Bienville is truly a spectacular dish when served on the half shell. If you don't have the oyster shells, use small individual casseroles. Or you could use one big casserole and serve it family style. I think everyone will agree that this is truly a delicious recipe for Oysters Bienville. We're ready to begin our main course on Menu 2, Shrimp Étouffée. Étouffée is a method of cooking where you take shrimp, crawfish, chicken, whatever, and a lot of fresh vegetables and smother it over a low flame. I have melting in the pot 1½ sticks of butter. We're going to make a butter roux for étouffée because we want to get a beautiful golden color that you can only get using real butter. You have to be a little more careful with butter than you do with oil because it burns a lot faster. So in a stick and a half of butter, I have put 3/4 of a cup of flour. I'm going to make a roux in this pot. Although if you're just beginning, you should do it in a sauté skillet because it's a lot easier. After you've made roux for a lot of years, you can do it in almost any pot. And the important thing again is just to keep the flour moving around, and especially to keep it out of the corners or the sides of this big pot. You have to take this a lot slower than the roux we made for the gumbo or the sauce piquante. So there's no rush. A crawfish étouffée is really delicious. Fresh crawfish aren't in season now. And you can't freeze crawfish tails, but if you were going to make this with crawfish, you would use about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of fresh crawfish tails. Not the whole crawfish, just the tails. It's beginning to turn a nice brown. It's real light now, but once it starts turning brown, it doesn't take long. This is ready now for the vegetables. Because this will continue to brown a little bit after you put in the vegetables. Get my spoon. Make sure you get all the flour off the bottom. Now, once again, we're going to let these vegetables cook down, and you can count on that taking about 10 or 15 minutes. At our house, the difference between an étouffée and a Creole, like a shrimp Creole, is usually the shrimp Creole has some tomato sauce in it, some kind of tomato, maybe a little tomato paste or something. And in the étouffée, we never put any tomato. But the rules are flexible. The vegetables have been cooking long enough that now we're ready to add the garlic. I always like to add the garlic a little later, after the vegetables are on their way to becoming soft. We're going to let the garlic cook for about 5 minutes. And now we're ready to add the shrimp. I have about 70 shrimp, or almost 2 pounds, of medium-sized shrimp. So everyone will have about 8 shrimp for their étouffée with a little lagniappe. We're going to add the seasoning, which is a tablespoon and a fourth of salt, a half a teaspoon of white pepper, a half a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, and a teaspoon of cayenne or red pepper. Now we're going to add the lemon juice. That's 2 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice. Now we're going to add water. And we're going to let this come to a slow simmer for about 20 to 30 minutes. After it simmers for about 20-25 minutes, it's a good idea if you turn the fire off, put a top halfway over it, and let it seep for about 30 minutes, or even an hour. It just gives it a little time for all the seasoning and the shrimp come together, and then right before you're ready to serve it, heat it up for about 5 minutes and add some green onion tops and fresh parsley. Shrimp étouffée is guaranteed to get everyone around the table. It is served on a bed of rice with a little extra green onions and parsley. Everyone should get about 8 shrimp. This is a real South Louisiana pleaser. Every great dinner deserves a great dessert, and Maude certainly has one here with her chocolate pecan pie. She's going to take 3 eggs. You just want to beat those around enough until they're well mixed. And then she's going to take a cup of light corn syrup, three-fourths of a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of flour, 3 tablespoons of cocoa, a half a stick of melted butter, and then a cup of chopped pecans, and a tablespoon of vanilla. This is a great dessert because it's easy, and I promise you it's delicious. Of course, Maude has made her own pie crust over here that you can make by hand or make in a food processor. And it's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of shortening, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of ice water. Make sure it's ice water. It really is delicious, and if you serve it with a dollop of whipped cream on top, it's special. Take the filling, pour it into the pie crust.
You pour it into an unbaked pie shell.
About 9 inches. And we're going to put it in a 350-degree oven for about 55 minutes. Pecan pie has always been a Southern favorite, and Maude's version of chocolate pecan pie, served with a dollop of whipped cream, is a great way to end your Cajun Creole dinner. Well, we're all finished now, and I really had a great time making this tape. Thank you for your interest in Louisiana cuisine, and I hope this has been helpful. Remember, this doesn't require any special skills, just time, patience, and a love of good food. If you have any questions or comments, please write to me at Post Office Box 14685, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70898.